Hi everybody, my name is Daryl Prowse. I'm with the Boeing Company out of Seattle, and hopefully this is going to be one of the best presentations you guys have seen all day. Anyway, at the end of this thing, we've got an audience participation part, so I will be counting on you to help me out with some numbers on this thing. But this is about how to figure out a practical way to put a dollar figure on your webcasts. And so I love this slide because I do a lot of business meetings. In summary, a little bit about the Boeing background, some of the metrics about how we pull figures about your audience, and the audience participation part in the Q&A. The Boeing Company is just about 100 years old. It was founded in Puget Sound in the state of Washington. And at 100 years ago, if you look at what life was like then, there was no USB ports and other things. So it's like the company has evolved continuously for the last 90-some years right now. They're looking forward to their 100-year anniversary in a couple of years. But they're really big on distance communications. Global Boeing has 170,000 employees in all 50 states and 70 countries. In addition, we have thousands of suppliers that supply parts for all sorts of military and commercial products. So we have to have constant communications between the company, the mothership, and all these suppliers and the employees. And so using distance communication has been a big part of the company for a number of years, and that's how we've been able to stay a viable, profitable company for so long, is that we've been able to talk to our people and been able to talk to them directly and to change course whenever it's necessary. So we do webcasts. We used to do satellite communications. We did fiber optics. We did all types of different type of things. We do a lot of video conferencing, and we use WebEx. But the Boeing webcast, that's what this is specifically for, because we're a chargeback organization. I don't know. Of the audience here, anybody here, do you guys sell webcasts? Anybody? You have to justify your existence? So you have to talk to someone to say, this is worth it or not worth it, or what can you do with this stuff? So basically the premise of this whole thing is, what would it cost? Like right now we have the people in this room, but this will be webcast out later on. So what would it be worth to bring everyone else into this room that's going to be watching this stuff virtually? That's the premise of all this cost avoidance. And we use the term cost avoidance on purpose as opposed to an expense avoidance, because it's like you really didn't spend it, but you didn't spend the money out, but you didn't save it. So it's not a cost savings, it's a cost avoidance. Boeing webcasts can only be viewed from inside the Boeing firewall. So we don't open up any of our ports at all. We use Windows streaming media technology to to stream our stuff out. Give me a second. Let me get my notes out here. We have a very robust firewall that they will not allow us to open up any ports at all, so we use video conferencing to get outside the firewall. Employees typically watch on their computer. They can also go to any conference room worldwide that's inside the Boeing firewall. And we kind of compare that to as opposed to watching on your screen. They encourage employees to get together to watch webcasts, because it's like watching the Super Bowl with your best friends all together versus sitting at home on the couch watching it by yourself. So it's more effective to watch it with groups. And then we have a web page composed of several frames and so on. And for our external webcasts, we have a vended service that takes care of the transport outside the company. For the most part, our products aren't sold to consumers, to individuals. So we deal with other customer airlines and other large organizations, so we don't have a need, for the most part, to do any direct consumer webcasts. This is our webcast page. We have the size of the webcast. We have video on the left side, video on the right side. This is an example of the wrong frame set on both of them. We like to have the viewer or the presenter looking inwards towards the slides as opposed to off to outer space. So we've got two standard layouts that we use. We use email for the guests, for the webcast guests to send their questions in. So we have someone on our staff or on the communications staff that would be watching the emails, and then they would be reading them back out loud. Our typical types of webcasts that we do are live business meetings for the most part. It's from the CEO all the way down to their direct reports. Then these people may have thousands of people under them, and they range from 5,000 people on a webcast, 5,000 employees, to 500 or even sometimes 100 or 50. So the numbers, sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small. We archive all of the webcasts. We do training. The affinity groups do stuff. We do special events. We do product rollouts. So maybe there's a new thing coming out of a factory in Philadelphia or something, and then they make it available to all the employees. We do multiple transport meetings a lot. So that's when we'll do a webcast as well as a video conference feed and a WebEx feed, and then people can be watching in video conference rooms as a group with two-way communications, and then we take that as a source on our video switcher and then send that out to the people in the webcast that are in smaller groups. And the people in the video conference rooms can do live video, return audio, real-time questions, but on the webcast they would send their emails in. So then the moderator would be in charge of directing which one of these locations you're going to start asking questions for. And for people outside the firewall, we'll use WebEx because that will jump around the firewall. So we have boeing.webex.com, and they can go into there and then get a business meeting and listen to it over the phone. Sometimes we'll have the guests or the presenters will be over the phone lines as well. In one instance, we had a large, one of the director level folks had a webcast scheduled, and he got stuck in snow and he couldn't make it into the studio to do the webcast. So he called in over the phone. He knew his slides, and he just gave his whole presentation on the car on his way into the studio. All the way walking into the studio and sat down, and they went live with the live picture of him.
You use WebEx because that's the only UC solution you have?
WebEx, we use WebEx because it goes over the phone line, and some of the subsidiary companies and other people that can't get a good webcast signal or in a hotel, they'll just watch it that way. But it's always, we plan that we'll use a WebEx system. So we'd use that with a phone number. This is some of the, this is our scheduling tool that we built, and this one kind of shows the number of webcasts we've got coming up, and this is what a producer uses to schedule a webcast. And in 2013, this year so far, we've done 175 webcasts. And what's really neat about this is this next slide, the metrics, will show us. This slide right here is the most important thing that we've done. This really does the stuff. This is our logon portal. When you go into a webcast, it comes up to this screen on the side, and it pulls in your name because the system already knows who you are. It pulls in the webcast title. It pulls in from the mothership where you're located at, but then you have to click on it to verify it. You click on the next box that says I'm attending virtually, and that's important because we do multicast streams, but if you're going on a wireless connection or if you're outside the firewall, that means you're unicast. And we can do 2,500 unicast streams on each of our 3 servers. So we want to make, especially at the very beginning, we were really concerned about how many people would be watching this stuff on unicast. We didn't want to overload it, so this was a tool to monitor that. And then the last box is the number of people viewing on this screen, counting yourself. Sounds real simple, but someone has to count the folks up. But this is what really has made it for us. We ask the viewers how many people are watching on your screen. Either if it's a big room on the screen here or on your laptop, 2 or 3 folks together, and you enter that number. It may seem like a real simple thing, but we also had to change the box that you cannot put in a negative number, you can't put in fractions, you can't put in something over 500 without a challenge, and anything over 1,000, you also get a challenge. So we had some interesting comments. You can't put 1.5. Yeah.
So you're asking this from a user whenever they're starting the whole webcast, right?
Every time they log on, this screen comes up. Yes.
If 10 people showed up after got logged in, you couldn't really add those people, right?
We can. I'll get to.
I guess really where my first question I wanted to ask is, why aren't you using Active Directory? You have
This is an Active Directory type thing. So my name pulls up here with my company ID, so it fills in, the Active Directory fills in my name, my address and my name.
But you still want to make sure they're coming from Everett? Or
Yes, because the people are oftentimes are traveling. It fills that part in, but you got to click the box to say, yes, that's true.
what's the, because you want to know if
I want to know where they're located at, because then that's worth money on the metrics that will come back out in the cost avoidances. Where are you located at? Because we've got some rules based upon your location that pulls that dollar figure in.
Are you doing anything with like the streaming of where, like the origin server is based on that?
No, we just ask them. Yeah, we kind of trust them for that part. We don't trust them for the numbers because they'll put down 80 and 100. Anything over 100, they get an email, and the email says, are you sure that you really had 100 or 150? And this is, before we send the bill off to you for 150, let us know. And they, oh no, I just made a mistake. So people back off real fast when they put down 500 or something. And then the system also takes care of someone putting in 100 and 100 and 100 is not 300 viewers. We filter that part out.
So this is tied into your billing system?
No, not at all.
Oh.
Heck no. We just scare them. Yes?
Is the I am attending virtually, is that what determines if they're going to join the multicast or the unicast?
Yes, the question is if I'm attending virtually, yes, it means if you're getting multicast or unicast.
Can you share what bit rates you're multicasting and unicasting?
Yeah. Right, here again. We have our encoders, there's a pull from the encoder at 320 by 240 and 449 kilobits per second. And our packet size is 1350. And that's a big thing where a lot of the commercial software can't help us. So we have to do that because of some concerns going through overseas. So on our data tracking, all the logons are captured by a database. Captures every single one of them. And then we have the test time. So once we get an order in, we make a web page. The web page is up 24/7, so the guests, our client is the one that's responsible for sending the emails off or the notification for that subset of people that should be going to this webcast. Typically, they're open to all Boeing employees, but not always. We can authenticate it to certain subsets based on the web single sign-on and the Active Directory stuff. But we define a live viewer as minus 1 hour to the event. At that point, the database still captures all of those viewers, but it displays them differently. It does the unique logons or the unique computers with the total number of viewers closest to the start time of the event. So if someone does 50, 150, and 300, it would count the 300 that's closest to the start time as being that's true, because sometimes people come into the room like they are coming in, and then you want to make sure that you get an accurate count of viewers. So based upon that, we can look at the total viewers, number of virtual viewers. We can sort the data by the county and the state, country and state, and the group size, and then we give them a report about what the percentage is of the viewers that have more than one viewer on it. So that when you have a logon that's got 3 viewers or 5 viewers, it means something that you can't get from looking at server logs. So this tells you now how many people in your webcast were watching this stuff together. And we found that to be very powerful information. And then we also track the archive so that after the webcast is over with, the database still captures those figures, but we treat that as a separate subset. So if someone logs on to the live event and the archive event, we count them twice. We don't separate those out. In the in-between time, from the time the live webcast is over with, before the archive starts, our tool will send an email off to the viewer and saying, hey, the webcast you tried to get onto before, because maybe it took us an hour, maybe it took us 3 days before we get it posted because we may have to do some editing on something, they get an email that says the webcast is ready. So it's a push back to them to at least let them know that the meeting is ready and that you can watch it now. So it increases the numbers and the folks find out that's pretty handy. So the categories again are the pre-event testing time, 24 hours, 24/7. If on the pre-event testing, if we get 10% of the intended audience, that's watching a webcast, they log in, so maybe the client says, we've got 1,000 employees. If we get 100, we're thinking, okay, we're going to get some pretty good numbers for the live thing. Typically, it's about 10% of the audience will log on. And the live webcast and the archive webcast are broken up into 3 categories: the local viewers, domestic viewers, and international viewers. And that's where it goes back to that part, where are you watching this from? And this is where it really kind of comes in handy. A local viewer is someone who is in the same state as the webcast. In this case, if you're in New York State, you're a local viewer, anywhere in New York State. If you're not in New York State, anywhere else in the United States, you're a domestic viewer. And then if you're outside the United States, international viewer. And all 3 of these have different parameters. So local viewer is the authenticated viewer, the logons. The duplicate ones are discarded, and the one that's the closest to the start time with the most viewers. And it's a total of viewers, not just the computers. So we consider the person that logged on as everyone else is in the same state that they're at. So with New York State, obviously watching this screen, they're at the same location. And it's the calculation that we do. Again, this whole thing, this whole premise is, what would it cost you to bring everybody in together to have a big, huge, honking business meeting? So we're looking at what the cost avoidance is that you didn't spend bringing them in. Yes, sir.
So how do you measure eyeballs if you're doing group viewings?
Because they had to announce how many people we think are in there. And we
So in that form, they include the number of viewers in that room?
That's correct.
Okay.
Sometimes they lie,
Yeah, of course.
but it's close. We found out that it's pretty close. And we can look at the overall picture and figure out what the percentages are, and we can kind of extrapolate that. And it's 1 hour of lost work time, 2 hours total to go to the meeting if you're in the same state. So whether it's crosstown Manhattan, if you like this case, or up from the 5th floor down, or all the way from New York, from upper New York State, 1 hour of lost work time to get here and 1 hour of lost work time to go back. And so it's kind of we had to do something, and the goal is to get our clients to be like that little bobblehead thing in the car that's kind of going like this. When they start agreeing to the numbers, you know you've got them. So when you come back with the final figure, they've already bought into it. It's like a test drive on a car. So just 1 hour of lost work time. The domestic viewer is someone that's outside the state, anywhere else. So then there's a round trip domestic airfare flight, 5 hours of lost work time to take this flight to get 2 hours to the airport. And so it's like, even that's a real conservative number. 1 night of domestic lodging, and then a car rental for half of the people. So we're kind of going, okay, half the people get a car rental for a day. But meals aren't included. Some hotels give you a free breakfast. Sometimes you're going to have a large meeting. You're going to provide lunch. You're going to provide dinner for them. So we're going to exclude meals as a cost avoidance. We're not going to count that. An international viewer, someone from outside the United States, that's 1 international round trip airfare, 8 hours of lost work time each way for each of the travel back and forth, 2 domestic nights at a hotel, and no car rental, and we don't even count taxis. And then again, no meals. So the cost avoidance that we figure this thing out with is the total of the local viewers, the domestic viewers, and the international ones. That gives you the gross for the live event cost avoidance. Then we take away the production costs. How much does it cost to actually put this webcast on? So typically, we're looking at probably an hour and a half meeting. And when we do our meetings, we have pretty much like what we have here today, where it's 1 camera operator, maybe 2 cameras with a person switching and an audio operator. So we've got maybe a 3-person crew. So we're doing these webcasts like crazy. We're doing it sometimes 3 a day of remote webcasts. And then we put in the archive cost avoidance and gives you the grand total for the net cost avoidance. Oops. Any questions so far? Go ahead, sir.
So you guys are distributed all around the world, all across the country. Is there one location from where you always do webcasts, or are you able to do them all over the place?
The question is, where do we do where do we originate webcasts from? That we do indeed, like I say, we go out around the world. I take my laptop out And as long as I can get into the Boeing network from a hotel or I can tunnel in, I can get into the Boeing system and webcast from there.
But there's a central
No,
Studio?
no. We have some studios. We have a studio we have one studio in Seattle, we have one in Chicago, we have one in Philadelphia, and I think one in Southern California. But most of the webcasts are done, except for St. Louis. They go to the studio in St. Louis, but everywhere else, it's just Boeing meeting rooms. It could be a room like this, could be hotels.
those are for the people watching the webcast.
No, that's for origination. And so we've learned that we take out laptops as our encoding device. We used to take the desktops out, but they aren't as robust. And then the little cards in the back side of the computer, on one of them it jiggled loose, excuse me, and it shorted out and blew the computer up on this day of the event. And the question is, do I factor in the IT? No. Okay. Thanks. The only charge that we do is the video production part of it, the webcast.
Okay, so you're on kind of the creative services production side, right? But
Right.
there's an IT organization that does system administration and so forth, all
Yeah.
back-end systems?
The IT,
So there's a cost associated with that aspect that's not calculated into this?
correct.
Okay.
We do not count on the IT stuff. The IT stuff is, there's a computer tax on every computer in the company. And so
So it's socialized?
yeah, so it's spread out all over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if you could kind of break down the type of webcasts that you do,
sure.
how much of it is executive? Can you do that kind of breakdown of what?
Town halls?
Yeah,
Probably if I break down the types of webcasts that we have, probably 90% are town hall types, where it's executives speaking to the troops. We're now doing training as well. We used to have training rooms, but now they're doing all of the training. I think all of the training is being webcast as well and archived. Most of it. Yes. Yeah, sure.
Now, you say you webcast from your laptop.
Yes.
What's the client you use?
And the client?
Or what do you use in order to stream your?
We use Windows Media, the basic. Yeah. Yes, back.
When you calculate your cost avoidance, do you ever factor in your presidents, vice presidents, travel time, stuff like that they avoid because they don't have to travel all around the country?
No, we don't factor in the executive costs. I've done some of the webcasts where they've come back and I've given them a cost avoidance report, and they've come back and they said, well, we did one in this one city, we did it 3 times, but they said that we already knew what the costs were because they were busing people in the same plant to a big building. It was like within 500 yards of everybody, but they brought them all together.
But but their travel, the executives travel, like from Chicago to Seattle or whatever, they would normally maybe go to a town hall at a different site instead of your webcast. You don't track that savings?
No, we don't track the executives' time.
Because, that's pretty significant.
It could be, but I can't get the clients to buy into that. But I can get them to buy into this stuff because the audience participation part's coming up next. Yes, go ahead.
What happens, how do you deal with time zones? Is everything archived?
Everything is archived, and then on the title page that you saw on the 2 things, sometimes we have a title page that comes up, and we ask our clients to put in, because we do time zones and dates. So then we'll say put down the correct date and the times and the local time for your audience. So if we're doing something to Japan or to Australia, it'll say maybe a different date for those guys than what we have in Seattle.
But do they tend to participate live if it's in the middle of the night?
Yes. That's what's amazing. You can look at the logs and see how many people log on. And all of a sudden you'll find that there's 20 people from Japan or Germany or someplace logging on at 10 o'clock at night, their time. Yeah, so that keeps track of that. You had a question.
So that registration page and the scheduling portal, that
Yes.
was all done in-house, you're not using some third-party vendor?
We all did it in-house. It's a SQL server.
Sure.
Yeah, we did it in-house. Yes.
The unicast users that you mentioned, have you ever had to justify improving the infrastructure to support a greater number of unicast viewers?
Have we ever had to try to justify having more viewers?
No.
Yes.
No, justify infrastructure.
Yeah, the IT folks, once I do, because I'm a video person, so we plug into the network, and the IT folks, they're the ones that have had to struggle with administration, because we're using the same network that the Boeing Company uses to build airplanes and to run machines. So we cannot bring the network to its knees, and we cannot interrupt any types of manufacturing that's going on. So they've told us what our bit rates can be, and that's why we have such a small bit rate, so it doesn't bust things up.
So they dictate.
They dictate to us. The quality, the company dictates the quality, and the IT folks dictate the size of our webcast area that we have as our area.
Wanted HD, we couldn't say, hey, we need more bandwidth.
Correct. We could not say that. We can go 16 by 9 instead of HD, and the 16 by 9 means that now, because I'm limited on the size of my presentation area, that my graphic size will be compressed down smaller. Into question, yes, sir.
So do you have any formula that you use for the video on demand aspect, for the archived video?
Yes. Yep. Would you like to see it?
Sure.
Okay.
And just a technical question regarding
Sure.
that aspect. Do you guys pre-position your video at different locations around the world to minimize traffic on the WAN?
Yes, we have to minimize the traffic on the network. Yes, we have load leveling going on, and we have 3 video servers throughout the enterprise. We have one in St. Louis, Seattle, and Southern California, and between those 3, that does the load leveling for the webcasts. So here we go. So let's just say we're going to do a webcast. Let's just say it's going to be an hour and a half long. You're going to have 2 cameras on the thing, an audio guy, and then we're going to figure out, based upon the information that you guys give me, what the cost avoidance would be for this webcast. So what I need to have from you is, start off on the line here, what's an employee hourly rate? How much do you think is worth for an employee?
45.
How much?
$45.
$45 an hour. That's the bundled rate. That includes retirement.
Double that. Yeah, triple it.
Give me a number. 100, 200, 150?
150.
150 bucks. What I did is I went to our corporate travel department, and I got what the average round trip ticket was for a domestic airfare. But I'm not allowed to give those numbers out. So, for a domestic flight, $1,000 bucks? How about we go halfway? How about 600? How about for hotel room for one night?
In New York?
150. We'll go with the low end.
That's an hour.
50 bucks for a car rental. Meals.
56.
Except we're not counting meals. International airfare. 3,000 bucks for an international ticket. Too high, you think? Okay. 1,200? All right. Production costs. How much is it going to cost us to put this webcast on? 2 cameras?
3,000.
4,000?
Subcontractors or direct?
Let's call it subcontractors. Make it expensive.
1,500.
Oh, 1,500? Now let's go 5,500, you think? Then you're pretty close. How many people can we watch this thing? How many local people? 100 local. Okay, we'll go 100. Domestic viewers outside the state. 2,000. Let's go with them. 50? 50 sounds good. How about one international viewer? Just one. On the archive, same thing. How many people watch this stuff afterwards? So if we have 100 on the local thing, I'm going to guess that in the archive you're going to have 10, just for grins. Domestic viewers for the live thing, you had 50. 6, you say? International viewers, let's just double that. You had 2. Someone else showed up. Are you ready for the numbers? From what you gave me, it looks like you avoided nearly $2 million. So it makes your $5,500 pretty doggone reasonable. You can take this to the bank and tell these guys this is, because we're a chargeback. So the execs say, well, we wouldn't have everybody do that stuff. Well, you can go back and then, let's just say we didn't have. We had 10 on this live event instead, and 5 on the domestic viewers. And still you're saving $22,000. Yes, sir.
Maybe this is getting too mathematical, but would you consider it some kind of factor to determine how likely people would actually be to travel to an event? Because not all meetings are created equal.
I get that all the time from, so they ask what the factor maybe of people actually going to this thing, because the execs will come back and they say, well, we wouldn't send them there anyway. And so I come back and I say, well, that's fine, but to move the company or the organization to do something, you've been able to tell everybody in your organization that you're going to do it this way now, and immediately the company takes a hard right turn. And so, you have the advantage of seeing the human interaction on the thing. So you can't. It's difficult to say, but you give them a little pep talk on it, sales talk, and you should be okay. Yes, sir.
Is your spreadsheet available for download?
I guess it could be.
Thank you.
Sure. It's just a matter of putting in, whatever numbers. But it's the argument that you give these guys that if you get the average cost that the company has, that your organization may have, or your client base may have, then you're in good shape. You just kind of go along, and you get your client to agree with it every step along the way. And if you go with real conservative numbers, and that's why I threw out the meals, and you go real cheap on the car rental, every other person gets a car, not everybody. And then you have a good number for a good low-end number for a hotel room. And if everyone says, oh, that's way low, that's just way too low, then you've got them. When they come back and you see this big number, they're going, wow, this really is a moneymaker for us, and I can get this message out. And then you tell the client, but now you're dealing with, because it's on a screen, you're dealing with other people doing their regular work duties, that they have to be a compelling message. You have to have something that's really good and to keep them there. But you can look at the archive, and if I'm an employee and I can't go to this meeting today because I've got other things I need to do, you can go back and look at the archive and see how many people came on and watched it on Saturday afternoon or Sunday night. So those numbers are the database that thing where it captures the date and time of when they logged on is totally the best thing out there. And it's and the server logs won't give you that stuff. It won't tell you who the people are.
Well, I was just going to make a comment that, the hardest thing, at least for us, is to justify additional investment in the infrastructure side. So I think our management understands the benefits of streaming and the savings we have in traveling, but it's making additional investments to make this environment better, what is hard to justify. So, improving caching, increasing bandwidth.
Yeah, so the question is about how to justify the costs. We went through that with failed webcasts. So that's a good way to do it, because we would do one, and all of a sudden some site couldn't get it because they didn't have a multicast involved, or they were in a Boeing building that had really poor connectivity, and they couldn't get the meeting. And they start complaining. Well, then from our standpoint, in a large organization, it was the IT people that had to go and react to that. So we didn't have to justify things, but it was coming from the grassroots saying, we can't get this webcast. An executive saying, I can't talk to all my people. Why not? Yes, sir.
It looks like you do follow up guys send out
Oh.
surveys as far as, you know, did they actually get anything worthwhile during this 1 hour of this webcast, live versus on demand? On demand, you can fast forward on boring stuff. I mean, do you guys look at those types of metrics for value of streaming?
Now, we haven't looked at, on the value of archiving, we have not looked at the amount of time someone spends on a webcast or if they're bouncing around. On a long one, we'll do some webcasts that are an all-day long event. We put index points so the viewer can jump to the right spots. They don't have to watch the whole 8 hours at one time. So we do that for the big long ones, but other than that, no, we don't. And then the client, we can put on the webcast page a click to a survey, so they can go to the survey and find out then any question that they want to ask. We leave that up to the clients. As a producer, I send an email off to the client and says, how did this thing work for you? I also send a report off that says, did we have any technical issues? But other than that, that's about it. I also didn't go past the other two. The archive cost was another $35,000. That's after we cut the stuff way down. Whoops. So our net cost avoidance is $58,000 total for the numbers that you guys gave me. On a, how many people? 10 people. 10 people watch this webcast, $58,000 to send them someplace to go watch this thing. So when they come back and I give them a report and you have, maybe there's 100 people on there or 2,000 people on there, then you can come back and say, what if it was just 10? And then you run the numbers for just 10, and then you still say, maybe of the answer to the question about justifying how many people would go to this thing, so you could drop the numbers down to just 10 people. And then I say, well, you still avoided spending $58,000 from getting those 10 people there. But look, you got everybody to watch this thing. It's a pretty easy sell. Oh. Somebody's building something somewhere. Yes, sir. Question.
Sounds like your job is pretty easy. Selling this inside the company. Do you ever get pushback? Like, hey, you're not saving us enough money.
Well, I'm about the pushback, and it's an easy job. It's been a fun job, and it's personally gratifying to see that you can save this kind of money by the stuff that I've been doing. And I've been doing webcasting for the company for the last 10 years with postage stamp size stuff, you know. I'm going, this is really cool. And then I got a response back from an employee somewhere in Manitoba, right after they had gotten absorbed by the Borg. And they said that this is the first time since we've been absorbed by the Borg, that I feel that I'm part of the group now. And then it was like just a wonderful feeling the first time they watched a webcast. You know, now they're hearing from the mothership directly. They like that. Yes, sir.
How did the relocation of corporate office to Chicago impact your work?
How did the corporate change to Chicago?
Yeah.
The word on the street was mom and dad got a divorce and dad moved to Chicago. So other than that is nothing. I mean,
Did you have to hire people for Chicago to take care of it?
yeah, we did have to hire some folks. We transferred one person that's from Puget Sound. Now there's another guy that's there from St. Louis that went to the studios in Chicago. And we have an MPLS line from Chicago to Puget Sound. So Puget Sound still is the main area of the Boeing Company, but the execs are in Chicago, so they don't have to deal with individual sales anymore. So the head of the department with his helicopters in Mesa, the local folks take care of the deliveries. In the studio that's there, we still do a lot of shows out of the Chicago office. Yes, sir.
When did you start to implement this practice of looking at these numbers for clients?
I started doing this cost avoidance figure probably about 3 years ago. I'm going to guess maybe 4. And I'm still using, on the internal side, I'm using figures that are about 3 years old. I updated them one time and I thought, well, that's no good. So then when I come back and they say, oh, but you know, they go, the figures are kind of low. And I go, I know. But then when you come back to the final figure, they're going to go, oh. So that they've bought into it.
So after that point, did you see a significant ramp of acceptance?
Yeah.
Higher sales, if you will, of, data production's done and streaming?
Yes, I am convinced about your question about if I got more acceptance. I am convinced that this saved our department. I am convinced that these numbers, even though they seem to be inflated and you have people that you wouldn't send to the meeting anyway, but I am convinced that these figures are the type that kept our video services in-house. And then our volume was just going up like crazy. So we're doing more and more and more webcasts. In fact, last year we did 175 so far this year. Last year we did 444 webcasts. And we had, of the 170,000 employees, we had 145,000 logons and a live thing. And this is what's interesting that you can't get from server logs. We had 184,000 viewers. So it's 40,000 more than what the server logs would have indicated, because all they can do is track computers. We ask them how many people. So it tells us that there's another 10,000. And looking at since 2006, when we first started this tool, we've had 2,500 webcasts with a total of 1,297,000 viewers. So we're hitting every employee in the company. So you think it's a big company, but yet we can talk to everybody at one time and then turn that ship and then start doing things. Yes, you have a question?
Can I ask what you're using for to publish the content and stream the video? Are you using a third party or?
No, we just have a graphic. So what we use to publish our content, we just have a graphics server that has the JPEG images, and we have a video server that streams out the video, and it's not a download and play, it's a play from the server. And that's a security thing. We have to deal. In fact, we have a lot of security restrictions on the things that we do. We have to use encrypted microphones for all of our productions, or wired mics. So we have to play by their rules. What's an encrypted microphone? It's one that's scrambled. So from the microphone to the back of the room, you can't pay. It's garbage.
Wireless microphone.
So all the wireless microphones are encrypted. That when we go to. Yep. Yes, sir.
You said you're in the production side of this, but being an internal system as your group is, and all of the hardware I assume on the network that supports all of this is also owned by Boeing?
Right. It's all owned by Boeing.
Did someone do some kind of return on investment for the infrastructure of putting all this equipment together so you can produce these programs?
So return on investment, I'm convinced that this report does it, but I'm not sure. I don't know. It started grassroots and it kind of grew out of Puget Sound, the webcasting part. So we could webcast in Puget Sound. Then it got so we could hit Southern California. Then it slowly moved out as executives found out they couldn't talk to their people other places, and now it's pretty much everywhere, worldwide. You have a question?
Can you show us the archive tab?
My pardon, what?
Can you show us the archive?
Oh, sure. Here's the archive.
So, can you just kind of explain, how is it being calculated? So are you tallying how many people watched the archive and what it would have cost for them to be at the live event?
Yep, there was 2 viewers that viewed the thing on the archive at $150 an hour times $300. Is that right?
Are those archives available anytime? It's on demand, anytime when somebody wants to watch it? They can
Yes. We have so archives are in our company, they're available 24/7, and then we keep it on a video server, and the sunset rule is 5 years.
So when do you take this calculation? Because the number would grow, right? The more time with it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I tell the people that I give them the link to the viewers, and then I tell them, but your archive figure keeps on. So usually as a seat of the pants figure, about 2 weeks after the event, the viewership drops off.
Right.
Yes, sir. Question. Go ahead. Yep.
Do you support mobile devices, or and if not, do you think you might need to?
Do we support mobile devices?
In terms of people watching on an iPad or something like that?
Yeah, at the present time, no. We do not support mobile devices. We're a Windows Media Shop, and we do BlackBerry is the phone of choice, and that's the only, except for a few people that's on pilot studies, everyone has a BlackBerry. So no, we're not doing mobile devices.
Playbooks?
Hmm?
Playbooks?
Nope. Nope. It's just desktop machines. Yes, sir.
How many simultaneous webcasts can you have at any given time?
how many simultaneous, we're looking at
You support.
as many people as we have that we've got for camera guys and audio guys and the number of microphones. Okay, 10 minutes, we gotta go. So we can typically do 4 or 5 or 6 without any issues. When we start getting above that, we have to start hiring people.
So you don't have any issue with limitation on publishing points?
No.
That's-
No, no. Tell you what, I'll be available afterwards, but thank you very much.